Hello, everyone. How you doing today? Okay, so I'm a little different. I'm an energy grabber, right? So I'm going to give you my energy, so I'm going to require you to give me yours back, right? So we're going to do this one more time. How everybody doing here today? Good, there we go. Don't go to sleep on me. So the truth of the matter is, when you think about cybersecurity and we think about equity, we all know one thing. It's a lot of various threats out there, right? So I'm gonna ask three people, what does equity and cybersecurity mean to you and why do you feel you need it? And I'm actually gonna start with you, Kevin, because I know your name.
All right. So equity and cybersecurity. I don't really know what equity and cybersecurity is.
Okay, that's true. That's true. I like that. What about you, Reginald?
So if I had to take a stab at it, equity just be looking at maybe having some diversity in terms of the different areas of cybersecurity and maybe democratizing it to those who can access it to ensure that the security meets multiple layers.
I like it. I like it. I don't know your name, gentlemen, but you was the moderator yesterday.
Tyrone.
Tyrone.
Yeah, so, I mean, equity could mean two things, but I will go with diversity and inclusion.
I like it, because you're right on. So the truth of the matter is, when we think about cybersecurity, right, to me, diverse threats, you got one more person?
I just want to say it just means making sure that everyone has access to the same level of security.
Yes, that is part of it, but it's also inclusivity. So when you think about, we talk about AI all the times, right? How we can have an unbiased system, garbage in, garbage out. It has limited access to particular data because we only have one set of individuals inputting the data, whether that's gender, whether that's race, whether that's cultural normalities. If it's not placed inside of the tool set, we have limited aspects on what the data will actually give us back, right? So the truth of the matter is, for me, diverse threats requires diverse defenders. So hackers don't discriminate. When we think about they're touching various sectors, from education to financial institutions, they have people in Korea, China, almost every country. The United States, majority of the time, as we've actually talked about it the other day, majority of the cybersecurity professionals are inclusive to Caucasian males, right? So think about it, if you think about this, we got Siri and we got Alexa. That's us telling women what to do. If it was more women at the table, maybe it'd be somebody telling Tyrone and Alexa what to do. Okay, so I'm actually gonna figure out which one of these move forward so we can get this party started. I'm gonna cover three things: the foundation of equity in cybersecurity, analyzing the diversity deficit, because there is one, and enacting change for an equitable future, meaning in leadership we need to lead by example. And I'm just grateful, which is why I get to stand by here, because I am an example of that. Equity versus equality. I think people muddle this one too as well. They think when we're talking about equity and equality, it's the same thing, and it's not. It kind of piggybacks inclusivity, making sure people have access to every level of cybersecurity at the same rate, regardless of who they may be. But then we still have to think about the distinction between providing resources and providing actual addressing the unique challenges in cybersecurity, like disparity of women, disparity of minorities that sit at the table, regardless of what their race may be. A minority is a minority, right? And then cybersecurity for everyone, which is what the young lady in the background kind of said. Everybody needs to emphasize a universal concern about cybersecurity. So who all in here heard of multi-factor authentication? Who all use it? Well, the whole room, hands should be up. Okay, so do you have a debit card? Everybody got a debit card, raise your hand. Everybody that got a pen, raise your hand. Well, welcome to multi-factor authentication. It's something you know, something you have, or something you are. That's biometrics, the physical component, or something you know, like the pen. We have misused the term so much that people get confused. So it's nothing new. We've been doing it. It's just the terminology that's alarming everyone, right? So, of course, we do have historical barriers, and we know it's dismantling, and a lot of it is based on racial disparities with the women trying to come in to bridge the gap. But if you think about it, the way a household is ran, you have traditionally a male and a woman, right? And a long time ago, the men would go out, and they would be the provider, and they would be the ones because that was their job. And the woman would stay home, and she would do all the mundane tasks at home because she was actually better at that. So can you think about if women actually came more into the field, how well greased the machine would be? Because what we actually seen over a term, that's illegal, sir. So what we actually seen in a term was that women can actually control and monitor things at a rate that we can't. Women are more strategic. That's why she had more tasks at home. And I know it's, so you're like, well, Teri, I don't want to hear this, but it's the truth. It actually takes us collectively to be able to kind of fight a war that has been ahead of us for a very long time. I know you guys seen Queen's Gambit. And in Queen's Gambit, because I'm going to break it to you in layman terms versus technical terms, she was amazing, right? But if you looked at the United States, we didn't win with the Queen's Gambit and with a woman being at the charge until we collectively came together. The other countries were winning because they knew the power of collaboration. It was the last thing we did. And when we did, we conquered. So if you think about playing chess, I call it cyber chess. So this is why equity matters. You have diverse threats that require diverse defenders, highlighting we have people with ransomware, where they actually have companies now. They have HR teams. They run just like yours. They have KPIs, they have SLAs. Believe it or not, it's no longer just a threat. It's realistic. They give nice salaries. I used to be an ethical hacker. Not everybody is ethical. Just know that there's a thin line between ethical and unethical. I just think I'm too pretty for prison. So then we have innovation through inclusion, demonstrating inclusive teams. This matters. Think about all the ideas of innovation and creation that can actually manifest from having a multitude of individuals at the table. The panel was just a rare example of that. That was a diverse panel. Various aspects, different cultural norms, all had something to say to bring it to make it more interesting for everybody so that everybody can be heard, not just one voice. You had Ravi, you had Tyrone. Tyrone, you wasn't there. You had Kevin. What's your name? Nick. We had Nicholas. I remember that. Okay, so we had Nicholas, and then we had, what's your name, sir? Wiley. That's his name. I was going to call him William B. So empirical, I mess his name up all the time, y'all, so don't judge me. I'm bad with names, which is bad. Okay. So barriers of achieving equity comes from systematic challenges, pipeline problems. We don't have enough people. I think Ravi talked about this the other day. He put out an application, and he received, let's say hypothetically, because I don't remember the exact number, 130 applicants, and only 30 of them were women. That's a pipeline issue. Sometimes it's not even the woman don't feel like she's qualified. That could be one of it. Sometimes she's overlooked because she is, as Dr. Lisa said the other day, overqualified. That's actually a problem that happens. And then sometimes people are afraid of being dimmed. But you have to understand what's for you is for you, and no one can dim your light. So then we have retention and advancement. We have directors stepping down to be engineers. Have anybody thought why? Because things have changed drastically. When you think about NBA basketball, the players get paid to do a job. But when they don't win, who is the person that get fired? The coach. Now, I can pay you and I can train you, but that don't mean you're going to show up. You might be Kyrie Irving and want to actually say you're going to protest and don't want to come to work. But yet the coach is the one that's getting deemed for the actions of the team. So a lot of times, cybersecurity has changed so drastically, and we have engineering mindsets that's not willing to change with it. I say a prime example. If you ever heard about the CISSP, who've ever heard about the CISSP? It's one of the highest exams you can get in cybersecurity. And then if you're a manager, it's something called the CISM, right? What if I told you they teach you two different things, right? So I took the CISSP, And I am a manager, right? And when you think about it, you have to erase everything that you knew to do from a managerial aspect. It's teaching engineers to do the opposite. So we're already creating division amongst the exam we know everybody is willing to go get. So now, how do we all get on one page? So you have engineers saying, no, we don't need these iterations. We don't need these validation checks. We don't need this. This is taking too much time. But you have the manager saying, this is needed. So if we do not have these validations in place, if we do not have the KPIs or some scalable metrics, how do we know when we're failing, right? And people really, they start talking, they're talking the same language, but they're actually reading out of a different book. So how do we get everybody on one accord? That's why a lot of people leaving their positions, because they don't no longer know their role within the organization. Lead by example, people. You can walk the walk, but it's a little bit better. You can just walk the walk versus talk the talk. So I can sit here all day and I can say, I'm a mentor. I'm a sponsor. It's the way I talk about women when they're not in the room. Even if listen, I might not even like the individual. Let's be honest. I'm not saying you got to love them. I'm saying you have to support them. But you have to do it wholeheartedly. And you make sure you actually sponsoring somebody that you truly believe in. Because at the end of the day, it will resonate through the way you speak and the way you act. You have to put some policy and practices in place that are actually achievable. SMART goals. Don't come with these policies you know ain't nobody gonna hit you, not gonna even hit it. You're gonna set yourself up for failure. But the practices and policies we put in place to be able to show that we are trying to achieve something greater, that we are putting inclusivity practices from a hiring practice in place, like Ravi said, which I loved Ravi. Like, let's think about the practices and the policies you are putting in place. This matters. This actually aids to us saying that we're all trying to get foster a better equity and accountability metrics. If you're not accountable, what are we doing? What are we doing? So it does matter. You can't just configure it. You got to know what you're configuring it for. Now, the deficit people, I know we talk about statistical snapshots. We talk about comparative analysis and global versus local. When I look at stats for all my data-driven people, I measure mine a little bit different. So if I'm looking at my help desk tickets, you know, sometimes they may say one and done. I'm not looking at something that's one and done. They can close a ticket, but how quick did it take them to resolve it? I'm looking at that efficiency. And then from there, you might automate it differently or put different iterations in place to kind of make it in a continuous effort where we can actually be more customer-centric that way, right? How do we follow up? Technology people don't, they have a problem sometimes, y'all, please forgive me, but you know I'm telling the truth. We don't always know how to talk to people, which is why they come get me. And guess what? My battery is limited. I'm still technology. So I can only talk for a certain amount of time. And that's why I love my wife. I don't got to say nothing. I can just look at her. She know I need some coffee. Yep. So or I might need to put my church finger up, but being aware makes you accountable, right? So I done even did something. I'm not telling y'all to do this, but find something that works for you. I put on my Amazon glasses. I can be in a board meeting so I don't get bored, and I might be listening to meditation music in my ears. Over my bone conductor while my ears are open. So being able to do tactics, because you have to be actively listening without distracting yourself and not taking yourself out of the mix. So I do that so I don't lose, because my attention span is very short. That's why they tell you only got 5 minutes when they're executive. We don't care about all this stuff. Tell us, is it going to work? And how much it's going to cost. Know your audience, right? Now, you know if you're talking to me, I'm going to ask you a hell of a lot of questions. That's why it's important to know your audience. Come to me with the data. If you don't come to me with the data, I know you don't know me. Just like a CFO. He don't want to hear all this verbiage. He wants to see some numerical numbers. What is this? Is it saving me something? Is it a benefit to the company? Is it going to take me in the ground? And that also going to your comparative analysis. I know I'm a part of this community. And I really don't say the acronyms because they continue to grow. But one thing, and I've been a part of the community my entire life, and I still don't know any of the acronyms because it doesn't define me, right? So just being able to understand that there is power in diversity. When we talk about, I was talking to a young lady that was from the Hill Conference, and she's a board member at a school district, and she was saying how her new executive director is a part of this community and how he came in just to be able to kind of figure out his point of view and his lens, the way he tackled things were totally different, and it was out of the norm because he was different. But it actually made some achievable results for that school district. And now they're succeeding in ways they never saw themselves succeeding before. So this is why it's important. I don't care. Listen, if you come here all red, I might hate red. It might look good on you. I'm gonna give you a compliment anyway, okay? So global versus local. Examine the difference. Not everybody got to win. Do y'all know that? That's a wide area network. I just was actually in a company, and they have 30 locations. From a cybersecurity perspective, the first thing we try to do is understand their footprint, right? So we can be able to figure out where their loops are. They got 30 different lanes. That was the first smart thing they did. Now, some people may say, why are you doing that? 30 different local area networks versus one global WAN? Easy, because they can hack that building and it won't affect the rest of my network. So let's think about a small disaster recovery plan versus saying now the entire company is impacted, now we got to go into business continuity strategy. Because there is a difference between disaster and business continuity. We talked about economic costs and social consequences of not actually having diversity at the table, and we all know if you get hacked, what happens to your reputation? When your reputation goes down, what happens to your company? So ask yourself, do you want to grow? And you got to understand, cybersecurity is going to happen. We're not saying you're not going to get hacked. We're saying when you get hacked, how you respond actually matters. Cybersecurity has to work. So it's a 99% chance that you can survive cybersecurity, but that 1% chance matters. Technology only has to fail one time, just once. So this is why you always have to prepare for the inevitable. So it's the same thing when we start to think about the diversification in this field. We cannot see from different lenses if we keep staring through the same window. Just because you grabbed you a new bottle of Windex don't mean nothing. The same Windex with a new name. Just know that. They just rebranded it. I promise you that. So security implementations, and so we become more vulnerable. Our defenses actually decrease while theirs are increasing because they're opening their bandwidth. They got people from Mexico, Pakistan. They don't care where you're from. If the common goal is to bring USA down, they are down for the cause because they have one enemy, and that is us. We're the only ones that have not figured out the value in coming together, which is why it's our social consequences. So one thing, we talked about the feedback loop. The feedback loop aids to proficiencies in making a company better. So being able to get some personal testimonies is really important. We do this, think about why you do it for your business. So you do it for your business so that you can think about your pros and your cons. Because I want people to be honest with me. I'm not just gonna put things up where they said I was the best since sliced bread because that's unrealistic. You're not going to please everyone. If you please 70%, you've done good. Because you're not going to please everyone. So now being able to kind of focus on that 30% of a margin is really important on how you strengthen your organization. When we think about when we do pilots, if we have people that are not test savvy, I go to them first. Because if you can convert them, you can convert them all. Start with the hardest person, not the easiest. Some people like to take the easiest route. To me, I like to take the hardest. Success against the odds. You looking at success against the odds. They told me I couldn't make it. I went from orphan to CIO. So success is actually a mindset, right? And so is the odds. So the way we look at those, we highlight achievements. We actually, which is why you guys are recognized for all your hard work. It's something TechNet Conferences did. They highlighted your achievements because recognition is important in order for you to keep moving forward in this organization or even to continue to move, especially in cybersecurity. We need to have more women-owned conferences where we're actually highlighting these individuals. It's a couple of organizations that's doing a phenomenal job, like CyberHer. I actually speak for them next week. One of the owners, the woman that owns the company she's a director at Raytheon. And I love her, right? So then the power of role models. So if you can't model and be able to figure out how you can do this repetitiously, we'll only get to limited potential, right? So I can stand here and talk to you, and role models have to understand it's not a la carte, it's not one model fits all. It's dependent on the person. You're going to kind of look at the individual, figure out their individual goals, and figure out how you can guide them there. I'm not talking about them outside of the rooms. I'm guiding them there. So I have sponsorship between a woman with Cyber Her, so I'm talking about her different. So I want you guys to understand the difference in that. I believe in her. I believe in her mission. She believes in my mission. So when we converse about each other, we talk about each other differently. It makes sense? Can I get a amen? Can the church say amen? All right. Are you guys familiar with SWOT analysis? I'm going to ask one more time. It's a room full of people, but I don't hear nothing. Are you guys familiar with SWOT analysis? Yes. Awesome. We talk about strengths. They say weaknesses, but I say weaknesses/growth. You know, I try to make it a positive. Opportunities and threats. And when we think about threats, I'm always saying that's something that's external to the organization, right? Something that's probably out of your control. But when you think about strengths, you identify strengths and advantages to a diverse cybersecurity workforce. What would that do for your organization? You can close your eyes right now and think about the state of your organization right now, where you are. It may lead to some weaknesses when you think about the limitation on the tool sets that's being created on your team and why they cannot achieve certain efficiencies because they've only seen from one lens. You can even go over and say, hey, we keep running into this particular gap. It may be documentation. And we know in technology, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. But a lot of men don't like to document. I know y'all know this. Yes. Mm-hmm. So that's why a lot of the project managers are women. Think about this. So they tried to bring product managers and project managers in a different capacity. And now they're even looking at the aspect where they have technology project managers because they need her to know technology and they need her to be able to document these processes and move these operations. But if you notice, engineers don't like project managers in the call because they're actually held accountable. So it's not how you do it, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So being able to kind of figure out how you can bridge that gap, make it where you can talk to them in technical terms and they understand that you're one of their peers, and then you can be able to kind of reiterate and talk to that in layman terms to the other group so they can understand because they don't really understand the technical nuance. You have a lot of VPs and a lot of directors that do not have a technology background and they run those teams. So I need you guys to be mindful of that. So they always leave room for opportunity. How can we build these things differently? How can we think about cybersecurity in the beginning and not the end? It actually saves us money. If we build a tool from the beginning, from a concept, and we say, my vision is to be able to put this in front of millions, but I don't think about the security impact from the beginning. How do I build the code within the actual product in which I'm developing? My company can be out of a lot of money, especially if we're not using Agile as a framework. When you think about in the older days, they used to use waterfall, meaning somebody had to do something before you could do something, and then let's say you got to the final stage and the customer said, I don't want this product. You had to go all the way back to the beginning, and you probably lost a lot of money. So understanding, having an Agile framework when you actually do this in small iterations, to be able to get to those small phase pilots, be able to test it out and build the security in it is really important as you scale out. Now, enacting change is done various ways. Education and outreach, partnerships for progress, and inclusive recruitment strategies. Go to schools, go to women conferences, go to whatever event in which you need to do. Your company can actually partner with schools to be able to kind of build up the next group segment because a lot of the stuff is not being taught in schools. So you have to think about what it is that your company maybe needs. We know AI is coming up. It's not something that we're going to be able to actually avoid, but the way we actually do put it in our organizations is important. So I wouldn't let it touch PII data. If you're just using it as a feedback loop and it's on a separate VLAN where it can't interfere with my network, that's something totally different. If you're not making sure it's touching data that can impact the organization, how do I pipe it down if something happened on this network? They can have all that data if it's only questionnaires, right? They do have it where you can configure an API in GPT 4.0. because we do it. We do it on a bot. When you come on our site, you might want to go to certain documentation. And a lot of people are, when you think about different generational norms, some people want things right now. They don't want to search for it. So they can be able to use the bot, and it's going to direct them to the same sheet that's public, though. I'm not going to give you something that's private. I'm not putting Black Carbon. I'm sorry, I love y'all, Black Carbon, but I'm not putting you in my network, okay? Because at the same time, I also was able to go into ChatGPT, and it's not what you ask, it's how you ask it, and I was able to find out information I should have been able to find out. So that's something they're still working through, right? So just be mindful of that. Education and outreach, you can never stop learning. Conferences, continued education, certifications, get out there. Continue to understand that there's always some new vector, there's always some new threat, there's always some new technology. And if you want to stay relevant in the field as well as effective, you have to continue to learn. But that's also where you get to meet a lot of different people, voices you probably never heard before. You know what I mean? So then you have partnerships with progress like I talked about with the schools, but the main thing for me is inclusive recruitment strategies. You got to present at various conferences so people can see you. Visibility matters. Cultivating an inclusive environment is about building a culture of belonging. I always say that it's important. I want to create a team so strong that nobody knows who the leader is. When I walk through the door, I don't want them to always think it's me. I want my team to feel that they're so empowered that I trust what will come out their mouth because I trust them as individuals, which is why I told you I do the meditation and yoga with my team, making them better people outside of technology. Because at the end of the day, their job is only 8 hours. And don't get me wrong, some people don't know how to put the computer down, but that's another story for another day. So then you got mentorship and sponsorship programs. It's important to have both of them in your organization. When you have people coming in, you want them to understand your cultural norms, teach it to them. If you don't teach it to them, they'll never know it. So one thing I do is, I don't care what organization I go in. When I was somebody else's CIO for 9 years before I started my own. I worked for companies like IBM and TransUnion, so we talk about big organizations. And when you go in, I did something called a lightning round. I went to talk to people. I didn't wait for them to come to me. I put them on my calendar and came to them. And be flexible and access to workspaces. Not everybody is into this traditional workplace. I'm not interested in being my mom. That's all I have for you guys today. You can share the slide, but remember, accountability and continuous improvement is needed with you all, your goals, and the workforce. Thank you. I appreciate you.